Today we'll bring you news from yesterday's presidential primary election, news from the Supreme Court, news of a new China Lake and community collaborative effort, Ridgecrest real estate news, today's gas prices, weather, sports, and so much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News Crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Whitnick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. Well, Tuesday, New Hampshire put their mark on the presidential campaigns. New Hampshire was the first state to actually let the people individually vote on their choice for president. Despite real bad weather conditions, the turnout was great, and the pollsters were really watching the results as well. Since they didn't do real good in Iowa, they were hoping they would do better in New Hampshire. Well, the results showed the leaders in both parties exceeded the polls. The lower positions were pretty close. With 93% of the votes in, on the GOP side we have these results. Trump at 36, Kasich at 16, Cruz at 12, Bush at 11, Rubio at 11, Christie at 8, Fiorina at 4, and Carson at 2. So Trump did better than the polls, and the rest were pretty close to the polls. On the Democrat side, we got these results. Sanders got 60% of the vote, and Clinton got 36% of the vote. So Sanders exceeded the polls, and Clinton did worse than the polls. With Trump's win, the liberal media is already rearing their nasty heads. The New York Daily News said this: "Dawn of the Brain Dead." Its headline blared in all capital letters. It added, "Clown comes back to life with New Hampshire win as mindless zombies turn out in droves." The Huffington Post called Trump a racist, sexist demagogue, and continued with, "What the GOP got was instead is a xenophobic demagogue who insulted pretty much everyone," and added other dispersions as well. I wonder when these liberal media will learn that their slams against Trump actually help Trump. Trump's backers generally want someone the media doesn't control, and he stands up to the vitriol that is what they want to see. But I guarantee the charges of racism and worse will not stop. These media pundits refuse to take Trump's statements in full context and understanding. Governor Christie has gone back to New Jersey to reassess his run for the president. He and the other governors put everything into the New Hampshire race. While Bush and Kasich did come up, Christie did not. And the biggest hit was on Rubio. Coming in 5th place was a terrible blow to his race. Anyway, this was just the first election. This really has just gotten started. They are all headed to South Carolina for the next 10 days. South Carolina holds actual elections with the winner taking all the delegates. In New Hampshire, the delegates were distributed according to position. Then on to Nevada. Nevada holds caucuses. So we will probably see the repeated turmoil that happened in Iowa again in Nevada. The next Democratic debate will be Thursday evening and hosted by PBS. It will be at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The location will be at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. The moderators will be Gwen Ifill and Junie Woodruff. After this debate, there are no more Democratic debates until March 6th. The next Republican debate will be Saturday, February 13th. It will be hosted by CBS News starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. It will be held at the Peace Center, Greenville, South Carolina. The moderators will be John Dickerson, Major Garrett, and Kimberly Strassel. And there's more Republican debates coming. In related campaign news, there is large concern in the Clinton campaign and the establishment DNC. It's reported that dark clouds remain on the Clinton horizon. The candidate striving to be the first woman U.S. president actually lost women by 11 points in New Hampshire. Her concession speech was gracious but uninspiring and unlikely to catapult her forward. She stretched to compare her own life of service to the service of police, teachers, firefighters, and nurses. Democratic voters still have a hard time trusting her. Bernie Sanders has a lot of work to do to scale up his movement to be a national campaign. He's going to have to work hard to secure the Democratic nomination. But things like that have happened before. And in Trump headlines, there are a general consensus that states the victory put to rest a number of lingering questions. Would Trump supporters who've packed his rallies show up to vote? Could Trump win over while rejecting retail-style politics that typify presidential campaigns? It appears Trump accomplished what was expected, and even outperforming the polling numbers. Now everyone is looking at South Carolina. Most pundits agree that if Trump and Sanders carry their wins into South Carolina and Nevada, then we may see the actual nominations solidifying. But Clinton and about 4 other Republicans will not go down easy. In news from the Supreme Court puts White House carbon pollution limits on hold. The heart of Obama administration's Clean Power Plan is now on hold after the Supreme Court granted a stay request that blocks the EPA from moving ahead with rules that would lower carbon emissions from the nation's power plants. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit will hear the case in June, but a decision could be a long way off, particularly if the case winds up in the Supreme Court, meaning that the rule's fate might not be determined before a new presidential administration comes into power in 2017. Announced last August, the Clean Power Plan aims to reduce heat-trapped carbon pollution from power plants, which the EPA says generates 32% of the total carbon emissions. The plan sets a new range of new national standards, with deadlines ranging from 2022 to 2030. More than 24 states went to court to challenge the EPA's action. In a surprise 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court agreed to block the measure, at least until the appeals court can hear arguments in the case this summer. The White House says it disagrees with the decision, adding, "We remain confident that we will prevail on the merits." Now stay with us for a story from the Navy coming up when we get back. Thanks for staying with us. Last Friday, the Navy and an assortment of people from Ridgecrest got together to discuss how the two sides can better communicate and work together. It was hosted by Deputy Commander Adina on behalf of Admiral Corey. The meeting was initiated by the Navy via a survey sent out to a group of people to reply to the Navy on how they could better communicate with people in the Valley. I was one of the people that had participated. Also participating were Supervisor Mick Gleason, Mayor Breeden, Councilman Thomas and Sanders, School Superintendent Ernie Bell, IWVWD Board Member Leroy Corlett, Pat Ferris of the News Review, Jim Silver from the Ridgecrest Regional Hospital, Chip Holloway from the Desert Empire Fairgrounds, Tina Warren from the Chamber of Commerce, Denny Klein from Gleason's office, and Justin O'Neill. The meeting was held on base. All parties had a great discussion on a variety of subjects. We learned that the base hiring locally has resulted in a positive employment of about 650 people. They are planning on a positive gain of 200 this year alone. Again, that is a gain of 200. That is in addition to covering the normal attrition with retirements. Again, that is just here at China Lake. And the base is continuing their hiring into the future. They have a green light from the Navy to continue to hire. We were also told the base is being looked at for more work to be done here as well. All the services and foreign customers coming here continue. Right now they are planning on the Australians coming in spring with about 300 people. Topics like planning of events were discussed, with the Navy committing to be more open and proactive getting word out to the community on its plans and projections. The Vice Commander did confirm the Navy Blue Angels will be coming in 2017. That has everyone excited. The Vice Commander stated that Scott O'Neill is still playing an important role in advancing China Lake's role in future weapons development. While he did retire as the Executive Director, he is leading the way to new weapons development. So this was still the first step in this new collaborative effort. Everyone agreed to meet again and continue on this effort. In news from City Hall, at the Measure L Committee meeting on Monday, City Manager Dennis Beer announced that roughly $800,000 of funds allocated for street improvements last year were mistakenly taken from the TAB fund instead of from the Measure L fund. The committee and citizens had repeatedly questioned the roughly $800,000 Measure L carryover and budget number that did not match. The Finance Director, Ty Staley, explained it as follows. There was about $800,000 spent from TAB funds instead of from Measure L funds. The previous Finance Director, Rachel McQuiston, allocated the funds incorrectly. Spear and Staley stated that there was no improper spending of funds as both accounts were to be used for street improvements. But it was an error nonetheless and will be corrected in next year's budget. In other committee news, former Mayor and Councilman Steve Morgan was welcomed onto the committee as its newest member. Now here's an interesting story of a new sex offender law. Passed by Congress and signed by Obama. Washington recently passed a law requiring certain designators to be on passports for sex offenders. However, the AP is reporting that a civil rights group has filed a suit challenging the law that will require sex offenders to be identified on their passports. President Obama signed the International Megan's Law bill on Monday, that passed by Congress last week. The organization California Reform Sex Offender Laws filed a suit in U.S. District Court in San Francisco, challenging the requirement that the Secretary of State add unique identifiers to the passports of all registered sex offenders. Passports today are used as a primary form of identification as well as for entry into a foreign country. The lawsuit contends that a passport symbol identifying an individual as a registered sex offender could place at significant risk that person as well as travel companions, including family members and business colleagues. So it looks like Washington actually did come together and pass some legislation. In Ridgecrest real estate news, we get this from the Ridgecrest Area Association of Realtors. After an uptick in November, we get this December report. For December, we closed 23 escrows on homes. The valuation was approximately $3.9 million. The average price of homes was approximately $170K. Home prices went from the low of $23K to a high of $316,000. Note that only 3 homes sold for under $100K. While these numbers were a bit lower than in November, that is a normal real estate cycle, as sales around the holidays usually are lower than average. The positive sign is that the average price still stayed up like November's pricing. Plus, already January sales are showing that there are already 28 open pending sales. So that looks good for January's numbers. Local realtors still say pricing is still very good here, especially for the first-time buyer. There are many homes in the middle of the price range, perfect for the first-time home buyer, and financing rates are still excellent. At a time when there are so many new people coming to Ridgecrest, this is great news for them and the market. Now, in KZGM's continuous effort to provide news and information you've asked for, here are today's gas prices for Ridgecrest and some surrounding areas. Since my report on Monday, gas prices everywhere are dropping again. Local prices dropped 6 cents per gallon. Ridgecrest still has the lowest prices in all the areas we are monitoring. As of this morning, Ridgecrest is ranging from $2.33 to $2.89 per gallon. Lancaster from $2.49 to $2.89. The LA Valley area $2.39 to $2.59. And the Bishop area $2.72 to $2.99. We have one station at the $2.33 amount. We have 3 stations at the $2.35 amount. Tune in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for updates. We at KZGN always suggest you shop locally to support our local economy. Remember, when you pay sales tax out of town, you're hoping those cities pave their streets instead of here. Now stay with us for weather and sports when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. Now here's Lane with the weather.
Thank you, Tom. From the National Weather Service, a bitterly cold air mass will settle over much of the central and eastern U.S. over the next several days. Well below normal temperatures and cold wind chills will be common. In addition, heavy lake effect snow will be possible, especially over western New York, where up to 2 feet is forecast by late Thursday. Temperatures across the nation. Carolinas at 40, Florida at 49, Arkansas at 46, northern Texas at 73, New Mexico at 53, and LA at 81. And for us locally, tonight, mostly clear with a low around 41, southeast wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday, sunny with a high near 73, southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday night, mostly clear with a low around 41, south-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Friday, sunny with a high near 72, with a calm wind. Friday night, mostly clear with a low around 41, south-southeast wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 70, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday night, mostly clear with a low around 40, north-northeast wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. And Sunday, sunny with a high near 70, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
So that's the news for today. Also, KZGN TV, know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. And again, now stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk coming up next.